One of the toughest things in self-defense is to be able to have reflexes that allow you to access the appropriate skills at the appropriate time. The more things you have to think about, the more things you have to remember, the harder it is. So one of the things we do in Martial Blade Concepts, or MBC, is to make sure we have as much common ground as possible, and we also try to work within the body's natural range of motion. So for example, if we take a look at what we would consider an angle 1 attack. If Thane attacks me here, what he's doing is he's trying to cut me across the neck, in this case with a knife. Doesn't really matter what the weapon is. It could be any kind of a contact distance weapon. We'll just illustrate it with a knife in this case. And it's a weapon that is short enough to allow it to pass between us as we do this technique. So one of our primary techniques, the master technique that we use in MBC, when he attacks, what I'm doing is, first of all, I'm cutting the inside of his wrist. So I'm actually cutting the flexor tendons and the forearm muscles of his forearm here, trying to take away his grip on the weapon. And what I'm also doing is using a defensive response called a crissata. I'm slapping his hand to accelerate that cut and try to create even more force. So again, when he attacks, bang, I cut. Now from here, my second target priority is going to be his tricep. I want to take away the ability of his elbow to extend and take away coordinated motion of his arm so he can't wield that weapon again if he still has a grip on it. So my second cut would come here to the tricep, and as I'm doing this, notice a rotation of my hips and shoulders. What this is going to do is it's going to drive my body forward. So I'm checking with the back of my arm here, stepping forward with my left foot, and then as I step off, my final shot here is going to be the third targeting priority, our quadricep muscle just above the knee. I thrust, drop, create a strut here, cut downward, and cut through that quadricep. The quadricep is what extends the knee. It's what allows him to support weight on that leg. That's also what would allow him to chase me and try to close the distance again. If I can drop him in place and create that mobility kill, that's ultimate safety for me. So when we put these pieces together, we get cut, check, and cutting the leg here. You can see it's a nice natural flow. Seems complicated, but it flows together very easily. Now that's if he's attacking me on the high line, what we would consider to be an angle 1. The definition of high line is above the level of your elbows. And the reason for that is anything we do above our elbows, our fingers naturally point up. Any tools we have in our hands, like knives, will also point upward. As we start to lower our hands to elbow level, what ends up happening is we get that point where we're articulating our wrists so much it's uncomfortable, and your hand naturally wants to turn over to a fingers down or a blade down position. So when we look at defending against an angle 3, a low line attack, Thane would be coming in here trying to cut me across the belly. He's below the level of my elbows. That's really the only thing that I need to be concerned about. What is my natural range of motion? Other than that, I don't want to change the rest of my technique. I don't want to think so much to say, it's a different attack, I need a different response. So in this case, when he attacks, I'm still using a crissata. I'm still passing his hand, but in this case, what I'm doing is I'm cutting his bicep muscle. I still could cut his forearms, but the thing is here, my thumb is also going to be a limiting factor. If I get my hands too close together, I cut myself. So what we do is we separate this a little bit, cut a little bit higher on the arm. Once I've done this, I basically have the same reference points that I had just a moment ago. I cut his tricep, I check the arm, I cut the leg. The rest of the technique is exactly the same. So again, he attacks angle 3, cut, check, take the leg, finished. So what I'm doing is I'm taking one conceptual model as far as my technique. And all I'm saying is, if it's up here, work with my natural range of motion. As soon as it's down here, I work with my natural range of motion. I'm also doing instinctively what I would do anytime I'm attacked. If he attacks high, I lean back. This allows me to now do this technique and get out of the way of that attack. When he attacks low, I hollow out. I make sure I draw my hips back, create that void so he can't hit me. Let's look at this from the other side. So again, he attacks high, angle 1, cut, check, thrust, and cut. He attacks low, hollow out, same exact motion. Having as much common ground as possible allows you to think less and react faster. So what you want to do is, as you program your training, as you seek out skills that you want to make part of your defensive skill set, make sure you have that common ground and that is really what's going to power your ability to defend yourself.